Welcome back to the True Detectives podcast.
Mhm.
Today we've got a case that's like straight out of a suspense novel.
Oh, yeah.
You know, a group of college friends caught in this crazy game.
A deadly game.
Yeah.
A deadly game.
Orchestrated by a mysterious texter.
Right, and then and get this texter predicts crimes before they happen.
It's a wild one.
I'm your host, Adrian Smith,
I'm Dr. Julia Jones.
and we're going to try and figure out what is fact and what is fiction with this case.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So it all starts with this, like, totally normal-looking text message.
Okay.
Right, our main character, Mia, she gets this text, and it just says, "Bank noon, armed." And at first, you think like, oh, whatever, maybe it's a prank.
Right, a wrong number.
Exactly. But here's where things get a little creepy. Mia's mom, she works at a bank,
Uh-oh.
and it's her shift that day.
So this text message is suddenly very relevant.
Way too relevant.
Yeah.
And like, how freaky is that? Just a few words, and your whole world changes. It really does, Adrian. Suddenly an everyday thing, like, going to the bank.
Yeah.
It's like a potential crime scene.
Right.
It makes you wonder how much of, like, our feeling of safety is just based on not knowing what's going to happen next.
Oh, it's scary to think about.
Yeah.
And for Mia, that initial fear, it turns into like pure panic when she sees this news alert
Oh, no.
about a hostage situation at her mom's bank.
Oh, my goodness.
And check this out. The timestamp on the alert, 12:02 p.m.
Talk about a punch in the gut.
It's like someone knew exactly what was going to happen.
It's classic. The perpetrator uses timing to, like, maximize the psychological impact.
Yeah.
Letting the event play out in real time
Yeah.
creates this feeling of helplessness.
Totally.
Like you're always one step behind.
Okay, so it can't get worse.
Oh, it always can.
Yeah.
It always can.
So Mia and her friends, Ethan, Kai, and Lily, they discover their phones have been sabotaged.
What?
No calls, no texts, no way to get help.
So they're totally isolated.
They're totally isolated. Like, how do you even...
It's such a crucial tactic. You see it in, like, manipulation and abuse cases.
Really?
All the time. Cut off communication with the outside world. And the perpetrator gets total control of what's going on.
Yeah.
They're the only source of information.
It's like they become the only voice the victims can trust.
Exactly.
And that's when, like, the real game starts.
Okay.
The texter begins sending these messages to each of the friends.
What do they say?
They're targeted with specific details. It's creepy. Like, girl red hair, third floor Lily.
It's like they're being watched.
They're being watched. Like, every move is predicted.
Think about how unsettling that would be.
To
know that someone not only knows everything you're doing,
Yeah.
but they can anticipate your actions, manipulate you and your surroundings.
Oh, my God.
It's a total invasion of privacy. Like, all sense of control is just gone.
So they're trapped in their dorm,
Yeah.
fearing for their lives and everyone else's.
Right.
They're desperate. So they try to signal for help using the security cameras in the dorm.
Security cameras.
Yeah, they arrange textbooks into an SOS message.
That's clever. It's interesting, though, how they turn to those familiar objects, like textbooks, to communicate.
Right.
It's like that human desire to try and create order out of chaos,
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And that's where things take a turn. Ethan, one of the friends, he realizes that if these texts can predict crimes, maybe they can use that information to stop the crimes. They can become detectives themselves.
That's a good point.
Right. So now they're trying to decipher these messages.
Wow.
Stop the crimes before they occur.
Going from, like, a passive victim to an active investigator?
Yes.
That's a huge turning point.
Totally. It's about taking back some control.
Yes.
Fighting back against that fear.
Right. Absolutely.
So now we've got this crazy cat and mouse game going on.
I bet.
Every text is a clue. Every prediction is a challenge.
Oh, my.
But as they get deeper into this twisted game, they have to face a chilling question.
What's that?
What happens when the texter turns their attention to the friends themselves?
Oh, that's where we'll pick up after a quick break.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the True Detectives podcast. So before the break, we were talking about how Mia and her friends are, like, trying to use these texts to stop the crimes. It's like they're in a real-life Minority Report.
That's a great comparison. Can we actually use data to predict and prevent crimes? It's a big question.
Right.
This case, even though it's fictional, it makes you think about, the ethics of predictive policing and if it really works.
Yeah, for sure. But in this case, it's not just predicting crime. It's about understanding this texter.
That's right.
So how do they even begin to decipher these messages?
Well, they start by treating the texts like puzzles, looking for patterns and links to things that have already happened.
Yep.
Like one text says, green jacket, crosswalk splash. And they figure out it's going to be a hit and run. So they have Mia wear a green jacket, and she disrupts the whole thing.
Wow, so they're like using the texture's knowledge against them.
Exactly.
But that seems super risky. What's stopping the texture from changing their plans?
That's the thing. The friends are assuming that the texter has to follow their own predictions.
Right.
Like they're bound by their own messages. But what if that's not the case?
Oh.
What if they're messing with them, just watching them try to stay ahead?
It's like another layer of torture.
It is.
Not just solving a puzzle, but figuring out if there even are rules.
Yeah.
And then, just as they think they're getting a handle on things, the texture throws a curveball.
What now?
This new text,
Yeah.
It says, friend turns foe. Betrayal is the key.
Whoa. That changes everything.
Right. It's not random crimes anymore. It's about surviving each other.
You were talking about isolation before. This takes it to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Think about it. You're trapped, you're scared, and now you can't even trust your friends.
It's like the texters using their friendship as a weapon.
Exactly. Turning their bond into a weakness.
So on top of everything else, they have to worry about who they can trust.
It's a nightmare. And that's where you see how clever the texter is. Creating this situation where fear and paranoia just spiral out of control.
It's like a masterclass in manipulation.
You could say that again.
So how do they even deal with that much pressure?
Well, it shows how strong they are, that they don't just fall apart. There are moments of doubt and anger, even accusations.
I bet.
But in the end, they have to make a choice.
What choice?
Do they give in to the suspicion, turn on each other? Or do they believe that their friendship is stronger than the texter's games?
It's like fight or flight, but in their minds.
Right. Do they lash out or stay united?
That's what makes this so interesting. Makes you think, what would I do?
Exactly. Could you stay strong and trust your friends when everything is telling you not to? Or would you become part of the texter's plan?
Welcome back to the True Detectives podcast. We're trying to figure out if Mia and her friends can outsmart this crazy texter.
Right. Will they be able to trust each other, or will the texter win?
Before we left off, they had a big decision to make.
Give in to the fear or hold on to their friendship?
Tough one.
So how do they escape this trap? Do they overcome the suspicion and work together?
It's a struggle for sure.
Yeah.
There's doubt, anger, accusations. But eventually they decide to believe in each other.
They realize their friendship is stronger than the texter's games.
Exactly. It's a good reminder for all of us.
Even in the darkest times, those connections can be so powerful.
Absolutely. And that leads them to their most daring plan.
What is it?
They decide to use the texter's predictability against them.
Set a trap.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're talking.
Hmm.
But how do you predict the predictor? Seems impossible.
It does, but they're desperate. They start analyzing all the texts, looking for patterns, themes, anything that might give them a clue.
So they're becoming detectives themselves.
Right, trying to understand the texter, their motives, their logic, even their sense of humor.
Right, exactly. Yeah. They're not just reacting anymore, they're thinking ahead.
Anticipating the next move.
And using that knowledge to expose the texter.
It's a big gamble, but it's their only shot.
This story is so interesting because it reminds us that even when all hope seems lost, we can still fight back, outsmart even the toughest adversary.
That's a powerful thought. But here's where things get frustrating.
Yeah.
The details get kind of blurry.
The information just ends. We don't know what happens.
It's a cliffhanger. We don't know if Mia and her friends catch the texter.
Some mysteries are best left unsolved, I guess.
Maybe. But we do know that they chose to trust each other, to fight back against the manipulation, to take control in a situation where they felt powerless.
That's a win in itself. A reminder that even when we're scared, human connection resilience, a bit of cleverness can make all the difference.
Well said. So, to our listeners, what do you think happened? Did they outsmart the texter? Let us know your thoughts. And remember, the world is a weird and unpredictable place, but we can face anything if we have each other. Thanks for joining us on the True Detectives podcast. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and never stop questioning the world around you.